Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Rubbins Racing TV. I'm your host Murphy, and we are here today for the opening of the GT3 Championship in Season 3. And of course, at the Le Mans Bugatti circuit. Really tricky circuit, this one. Taking it round with some of the boys earlier on. Definitely going to be an interesting start to this season's GT3 opener. And a few new faces as well to boot. A few drivers stepping up from some of the other championships that you may or may not have seen about, so a little mix up to the lineup for this upcoming season for the next 6 races. A few drivers looking to learn a few things and maybe put their mark down against the GT3 classification. Ones to look out for is VMX Rider, our Australian driver. We've also got Fast as Gamer, Fast AF Gamer. Keep an eye out for him. He's certainly looked quick in some of the broadcast events. I know I've been mentioning his name, especially in the special event that we were hosting in the off season. And All Right Turkish as well, pretty much a newcomer to the GT3 classification, but looking to go slow and steady and build upon his skills in these high-powered GT3 cars. Definitely been proving himself within the Clio Cup and in plenty of community lobbies that is hosted with Rubbins Racing, along with the GT5 championships as well. So keep an eye out on these boys as the season progresses. Our old favourites though, just coming to the end of their practice session. We have of course got Duftino topping out this practice session with Thorsten Smith in second. It's BT in third at the moment with Bruce Law, who we've just been following around for his closeout of the practice session, finishing in fourth. But there in fifth place is one of our new drivers, VMX Rider. Obviously been putting in some time because that looks pretty competitive to me with a 136.4. We'll see how this one progresses though as we get into the qualification heats. So just to continue with the roundup, we've got Travis in 7th place, Una Clark just above him in 6th, NRP, our lead coordinator, in 8th place, and then Moritz Pizza in 9th. TomTom finishing up that session in 10th, and then I'm afraid my classifications have just dropped off. We can continue it now. So yes, as I said, TomTom in 10th place. And then once it allows me to just move down the running order, Fast as Gamer in 11th with Lion's Foot in 12th, All Right Turkish in 13th, and then Traven not setting a lap with that one. I do believe as well Evan, our Irish driver, is just on his way, so Lion's Foot will have his playmate to start out this season. These two love duking it out in any of the cars that they race in. But we will be getting the qualification session underway momentarily. Love to know your predictions for this one. Is it going to be the same as the practice session, or are there going to be some upsets up near the top of this running order? Straight away we've got Yasmin, who's supporting Duftino for the championship. Definitely going to be a tricky one, but he's definitely inside the favourites list. Always been proving himself season in, season out in these GT3 cars. These boys are just about to get themselves out on track, and as ever, Duftino getting out the blocks quite quickly in that Lamborghini. Opting for a different livery this time around, I do believe. He's racing for the Vodafone team, and he's first out the blocks. But a lot of these other boys as well, with only 10 minutes inside the qualification session, looking to get themselves set up and out on track as soon as possible. Few different sections for those that aren't familiar with this shorter Le Mans circuit. Quite a few tricky double apex corners, that being one of them. That one's not really the hardest. I think that might be turn 5. This one is certainly a tricky one, as we see Duftino entering this double apex right-hander. First section of it's easy, but it can quite easily mess up your line for that second section of the corner, and then we're going to run all the way down to the second longest straight in there, into a heavy braking zone, into a long left-hand chicane. You see Duftino there just trying to get some heat into the tyres. We'll see them attacking this corner very differently once the race begins. And then this is potentially the trickiest section of the circuit. A few hidden apexes, really. Quite hard to master in these GT3 cars. The car will want to understeer away from you, and the track limits are really punishing as we enter the final section of another double right-hander into the start-finish straight. Relatively short lap, definitely a tricky circuit though. It's going to be hard for these boys when they are getting side by side to keep it on the straight and narrow and to avoid any track limit penalties. I think that's going to be one of the deciding factors in this race on who can avoid the race director penalties for sure. So we're now following Duftino around. He is now on a hot lap. Those tyres are looking pretty warm. I'll keep you updated with all of the comings and goings inside there. And 35.1 is the sector time to beat for now, which is Duftino's first one. NRP closing behind, around about 2/10 behind that as it flashes up on my board. And still it looks as though Thorsten Schmidt now has just gone slightly quicker by less than 1/10 over Duftino. The rest of the boys, they're all hitting the 35 seconds inside that sector one, so really competitive. Even our new guys, Alright Turkish is just slipping behind. He's setting a 36, pretty much dead inside that sector. So not a big difference between all of these boys. Obviously be getting in their pre-season practice ahead of this upcoming season. So coming out of the final corner, we're about to get our first lap times for our sprint race. For those of you that aren't familiar or maybe new to Rubbins Racing, this championship will run two separate races, as with most of our broadcast championships. A sprint race and a feature race. The sprint race for this one is going to be a 10-minute qualification session, and then that's going to lead us into 20 minutes of racing. The feature race itself is going to be a reverse grid, with these boys going into their reverse finishing orders from the sprint race. So if you finished in last place in the race, you're going to start the feature race in first place with a rolling start. It's then going to be double the race time in lap format. So 40 minutes there or thereabouts in terms of laps. And now as we see the rest of the field starting to set their first laps, we've only got two drivers inside the pits at the moment. VMX Rider has already set his lap, but Thorsten Schmidt has laid down his glove with a 1:35.2 starting off this one. And we can see the difference between him and Duftino is pretty much a Rizzler paper now between these two drivers. It's going to be a fantastic race, this one. It really is. Really technical circuit to start us off here, with Moritz Pizza in third place, so a vast improvement from his practice times. Not sure how many laps he got out on there, but as we saw throughout the later stages of last season, very capable driver. Has plenty of experience inside these GT3 cars as well. So he's going to definitely try and mix up this season for sure. Looks as though Duftino's done enough to knock Thorsten Schmidt off the top spot for now. Thorsten Schmidt, it looks as though he hasn't got enough fuel in his car, so we see him come into the pits after the cat and mouse between these two drivers begins immediately. Thorsten Schmidt once again taking off that provisional pole place straight away. So it's PT currently in third place. He's looking to cement himself with a good start. We've seen him up there with the best of them throughout all of last season. A few little slip-ups did cost him, but with Yasko VR out of the championship for this season, this really has opened it up to the rest of the drivers. Moritz Pizza now down into fourth place. Bruce Law currently in fifth, with Traven in sixth place. Thorsten Schmidt's the one with purple sectors across the board though. Nobody beating him in any of the sectors. We'll wait and see what Duftino manages to come up with in the final 3.5 minutes of this session. So potentially 2, maybe even 3 laps to go as we follow its PT around into the final sector. Let's have a look if its PT can make an improvement. His sector times don't really suggest it. I think it's a slight improvement on his best, but it's still only enough for third place as this session progresses. Let's go on board now with Thorsten Smith. Let's follow his car around. I think we may actually have Duftinho in tow as well in that black and red Lamborghini. Let's see if we can get a look as we come around here. Yep, it does look to be Duftinho. It's just, yep, it is indeed. So remember, ladies and gents, this is currently their outlap. So this one isn't going to be groundbreaking, but we'll keep an eye out on the rest of the runners. Everybody out on track at the moment. Let's just bring up my map and let's see whether or not they're going to encounter any traffic, because that's going to be critical as well in terms of keeping onto the provisional pole. I think they're in clean air though, these two drivers, first and second at the moment. Clean air for the rest of this lap, so this is a perfect situation for them to be able to put in a hot one. Duftinho just outside of the slipstream, so he's not going to be able to get any tow advantage, I don't think, until we reach at least the end of the circuit. Interesting enough, its PT is putting green sectors all the way through this one. This might see a marked improvement to try and knock VMX off from that third place position at the moment. So good going from him. We'll see how that finishes up. Bruce Law also putting the hammer down in the the last two sectors of his last lap. It looks as though it was his first sector that's just let him slip a little bit to not make an improvement as he comes back into the pits. So its PT not doing enough to be able to knock VMX Rider off that third position at the moment. Fantastic introduction to the GT3 Championship from our Aussie staff member. I know I've raced with him personally plenty of times. Very technical driver. He's got plenty of real world experience inside a race car. Often see him online and he's all about the clean racing. Loves to work on his setups, loves the fact that here at Rubbins Racing we try and do things by the book, follow the correct track etiquette. I think that's what really sparked his love for this fantastic community. So now he's looking to bring a name for himself for sure inside these GT3s. Definitely starting off with a bang if he does manage to hold on to that third place. But it looks as though Thorsten Smith didn't go faster that time. He still holds the purple lap record for this session. Duftinho unable to make any improvements as well. They've actually slipped off the pace a little bit, so I wonder whether or not that might just be a change in track conditions, but they have got one more shot at it. Let's have a little bit of a look further down the field. So let's jump on board with Bruce Law as he warms up his tyres. We'll keep an eye out on the rest of the changes inside the lap times. Well, let's see whether or not Bruce can make a improvement on his current lap. Looks as though he's just past the Ferrari of Lionsfoot there. I could hear a little bit on comms. It looks as though Bruce is actually ducked out of this lap, perhaps just practicing his pit entry. Just to remind you folks that aren't quite familiar with how we operate this particular championship, the first race, the sprint race, will just be a sprint to the finish. The feature race will have a mandatory pit stop. These drivers will be racing with full damage enabled as well. So they're going to want to keep out of any scrapes and scuffles to try and keep that mandatory pit stop down to an absolute minimum. Currently following Duftinho around the track. Oh no, sorry, we're currently following Moritz Pizza around the track. We recognise that red and black Audi R8. Let's see whether or not he can make any impression on this final lap. Duftinho though, looks as though I was just about to say he's got purple sectors in sector 1 and he actually takes the top spot from this one. Duftinho is going to start this in first place unless Moritz Pizza can knock him off it. Looking at Moritz's sector times, it looks as though he's slightly off the pace. Does make an improvement though. It's enough for third after that at the end of this session. So it looks as though Thorsten Smith is going to start in second place after a fantastic final lap from Duftinho in the session. Let's have a look at Matthew, otherwise known as Fast AF Gamer. I'll call him Fast As for commentary purposes. See whether or not he can make an improvement. It doesn't look as though he can that last time around, so we have got our running order for our initial sprint race around this Le Mans Bugatti circuit. Duftinho is going to top out the running order with Thorsten Schmidt in second. Fantastic final lap from Duftinho just to pull it out of the bag, and you can see with only 600ths of a second difference between the two drivers, it's definitely going to be closely competed between those two Lamborghinis. Moritz Pizza in third place with VMX Rider in the Mercedes AMG in fourth place. It's PT with a Ferrari, white Ferrari, in fifth, with Bruce Law in his AMG in sixth. Travis is going to start up in seventh with Uniclark in eighth. Traven is then in ninth with Fast As Gamer in 10th. NRP, he starts from 11th with TomTom in tow in 12th. All Right Turkish managing to get the jump on Lionsfoot in 13th place. Lionsfoot getting the better of his compadre, which is Evan, in 15th. So we're going to have a couple of minutes to set these cars up, get these guys out on track, get all of their adjustments made if they have any, and then we'll be starting our first sprint race inside the GT3 Championship pretty soon. Just having a look at some of the comments on YouTube. We've got the console who's thinking that Thorsten's going to finally get himself a championship title this season. It's definitely going to be hard fought, that's for sure. He's secured himself as one of the favourites pretty early on into his GT3 championship career here with Rubbins Racing. His experience definitely shows through, but I think with Demobi out of the running, it's going to definitely open the possibilities up to him. And these boys, I can hear them wishing each other luck from the cars. It looks as though we're pretty much set up and ready to go with 45 seconds left for those final adjustments, and then we'll get this race underway. Going to be interesting to note who gets off the better start for this one. I think the entry into this first corner is, because it is so far away from the start-finish line, it's going to be crucial to get yourself lined up. But here we are, we're ready for the lights. And we're underway. Good starts from first and second. It looks as though Moritz Pizza bogged down a little bit, but that's not worrying him too much with VMX. Just pulling alongside in that high-powered AMG. Looks as though Thorsten Schmidt's got the drive up onto the inside for the first corner, but that has definitely set Duftinho up for the second one. Everybody away through cleanly, it seems. We'll just have a little bit of a look down the rest of the order. Yep, it looks as though all drivers away cleanly, and 15 cars on the field without any incidents. So we jump back into first place. Duftinho now looking to get a bit of a gap between, and it looks as though Moritz Pizza is starting to challenge Thorsten Schmidt. We jump into the chase cam of Moritz Pizza and try and get a good view of this driving. Straight away into his slipstream. He's going to have to be careful trying to make any moves into this one because of the track positions of first place. But will he get that R8 powered down straight onto the first straight of this circuit? Looks as though the Lamborghini's actually got the drive away from the corner. That power differential is going to play crucial, I think, as these laps progress. VMX managing to hold on to that fourth place at the moment. He did temporarily take up away from Moritz, but Moritz ended up getting the drive by the second corner. Let's jump back down to trackside and get a good view of the rest of the cars in the field. So no major changes. One worthy note though, Evan is now up to 8th. He's managed to pull along with NRP, who's also up into 9th place. It looks as though Lionsfoot was soon knocked down the running order, unfortunately. Fast as Gamer as well, down there with him. So I wonder whether or not there was a slight bit of contact there with those two guys. Couldn't see anything off the line. It may well have been coming out of turn 3 or 4. We'll have to wait until these guys get into Parc Ferme, and I'm sure they'll fill me in on that one. But plenty of improvements to be made in the remaining 17 minutes. Plenty of racing to go in this one. Duftinho managing to make up around just over half a second now to Thorsten Schmidt, who in turn has got around about 2 seconds ahead of Moritz Pizza. So the top two drivers looking to build upon a gap. But we have got a bit of a battle going on between VMX, Bruce Law and XPT, it seems, down for that 4th position spot. Let's jump in here with XPT and we'll follow him into the chase cam, try and get a good eye of the battle that's going on ahead of him with Bruce Law and VMX. You see VMX there just defending that inside line, moves back over to the outside to try and get the chicane just right. You don't want to cut over that line, the race director will punish you for it, but we see Bruce Law now having a little bit of a sniff up the inside. Looks as though he's got that move done cleanly, and VMX is at risk of losing another position here. Definitely left himself open for XPT, trying to mop up another place. It looks as though VMX has got his defensive line back on order. It's just whether or not he can hold it through the slipstream into this long start-finish straight. Jump back into the trackside cam now and try and have a look at this battle develops. There's some fantastic sweeping camera angles on this one for you guys tonight. As we see there, XPT just getting ultra sideways under brake and he ends up losing it. It looks as though he may have to wait for that pack to pass as well. Hopefully not too much damage. He manages to get back on track in 11th place, but All Right Turkish is fast approaching. So interesting to see that. I'm sure we'll see him moving up the pack once again, so long as that Ferrari isn't damaged. So that puts Bruce Law in 4th place now. VMX in chase in 5th place. Moritz Pizza is actually going to run the risk of getting caught up by Bruce Law pretty soon, I think, unless he can hook together some pretty quick lap times. Just bring together his lap board at the moment. So Thorsten Schmidt actually managed to put in a purple last lap around with a 1:35.8, so he's looking to try and get that pressure onto our race leader Duftinho at the moment. Looks as though Duftinho is managing to keep a hold of that lead at the moment, though, just under a second. So we'll keep a close eye on that. But at the moment, the battle for 4th place is definitely hotting up, and Bruce Law is certainly gaining on Moritz Pizza. Moritz Pizza is soon to have our Cheshire drivers AMG right in his exhaust, that's for sure. So moving on down the order, Travis currently in 6th place with Traven in 7th. Not much of a distance between those two drivers, who then have a bit of a gap up to Uni Clark in 8th place, our lead coordinator NRP in 9th with Evan in 10th. Good position here from Evan, looking to put in a good showing. I think this is his 2nd time around in this championship, so let's see how he can develop on his previous season's placement. XPT in 11th with All Right Turkish in 12th, so debut from All Right Turkish. He's certainly holding his own out there against TomTom, who's currently in 13th, with Fast As Gamer in 14th, after that unfortunate incident from what can we only assume in the beginning of the race, with Lions Foot currently at the back of this pack. So Bruce Law now looks to close that gap even further onto the 3rd place of Moritz Pizza. See whether or not he can get the toe into this section. I don't think we're going to see him move into the chicane, but a nice smooth drive will definitely give him some advantage into the final sector. Overtaking places around this track, that corner's definitely one of them. If the guys run wide, you can also manage to get an undercut on that back turn that we've just seen them take. Not much to be done in terms of the final 2 corners, but so long as you get yourself set up into this drag over the start finish, you can already be past the car when it comes down to that small right hand turn 1 that we're just seeing them take now. No moves to be made this time around though. Looks as though the setups of these cars are pretty evenly balanced. Let's have a look. It looks as though Duftino's managed to just creep over that 1 second lead margin to second place Thorsten Schmidt. Duftino managing to keep it consistent all the way around in the first 5 laps of this race. Let's have a little bit of a look down the order. We're just seeing VMX popping into the background there, so Bruce Law's managed to pull out a bit of a gap to debutant Australian in 5th. So that will give him the opportunity to try and battle a little bit, maybe take some risks with there being a gap ahead, knowing that he's not going to come under immediate pressure from VMX in 5th place. Let's have a look at what's going on down here. Looks as though NRP is managing to stem off any challenge from Uniclark at the moment, but we'll see how that one progresses. Looks as though Travis and Traven though duking it out in 6th and 7th place. Nothing much between these two drivers in two very different cars. So I think this is the first time we've seen the Nissan GTR feature in the Rubbins Racing GT3 Championship, and obviously Travis is making it work right now. Currently sandwiched between a Lamborghini and the AMG of VMX. Let's just have a look at how his lap times compare. Sector times are super even between VMX and Travis at the moment. It looks as though Travis just got the better of him that last time around, and that's going to soon put him under pressure, I think, with VMX if he can't keep up with those, or if Travis can put those in quite consistently. We are seeing the gap though between lap times between our top two drivers and the rest of the field. Most of the guys managing to get themselves into consistent 137s, but our race leader and second place at the moment putting in pretty consistent 135s. So definitely stamping their foot of authority around this circuit for our championship opener. Let's have a look at the distance between those two. We're currently tracking Duftino around this track. So you can see there, Thorsten Schmidt looks to have put the hammer down. He's managed to close that gap considerably. It looks as though it was all made up in Sector 1. Around about 3/10 gained in Sector 1 on this lap, and 1/10 in Sector 2. So Thorsten Schmidt really closing that gap pretty quickly. With 10 minutes remaining of the session, we're just reaching the halfway point here. So Duftino definitely not able to breathe easy for the final 10 minutes. Jump down the running order. Let's have a look at this battle that's forming up between Evan and All Right Turkish. Evan in the Lamborghini, making a bit of a change from last season, I do believe, and we've got All Right Turkish in that Audi R8. Looks as though we've got Tom's Ferrari as well, just breaching the track limits there on the exit of the final corner. That's going to cost him in terms of a slowdown, but Evan looks as though his last lap around, looking at it with a 145, has left that window of opportunity open for All Right Turkish, and All Right Turkish will be licking his lips to try and get hold of that place. Of course, small position changes will mean a considerable difference to the start of your championship. I think I've explained to you guys before, but I will explain them again on how our championship points work. So for finishing in pole position, you will get yourself 1 bonus point, as will finishing with a fastest lap in both of our races, both the sprint and the feature. But in terms of championship points, we actually run with first place will get 35, and then it's 30 points for second, 27th for third, 25 points for fourth, 23 points for fifth, 20 points for sixth, and then it will move down in steps of 3 and 2, with 15th place managing to get 2 points on their board. Once we get past 12th place, it's 5 points for 12th, and then it actually moves down to 1 point for each place below that. So the more that you can step it up, it will definitely try and help your championship standings, especially over 2 races. with a maximum of 74 points on offer. Sorry, 73 points on offer. We don't actually run a second qualification session, of course, in this championship. So Dovtinho's still holding on, but only just. Let's jump back to this battle for first place. In fact, it looks as though, I beg your pardon, Dovtinho's just managing to hold on to second. Thorsten Smith's made that pass around. I did see warning from race director flashing up on the screen, so it looks as though it may well have been a slowdown penalty that's finally let Thorsten Smith through. But we can see there Dovtinho managing to get the power down and right up the trumpet of Thorsten Smith at the moment. So not letting the place go easily, that's for sure. Let's see whether or not he can try and move up the inside. It looked as though a move was going to be made, but our camera angle just knocking it off. Maybe a little bit of contact there as we see them entering the final two corners. Thorsten Smith managing to get the better drive, just towing the line of track limits there. I'm not sure whether or not there's going to be a penalty from the race director. It doesn't look as though there is, so Thorsten Smith manages to maintain that advantage at the moment. And if there was a little bit of contact, you could say that it's justice done there. Of course, couldn't say for certain from this camera angle. Did look as though there was just a little bit of a rub on the front wing of Dovtinho onto the rear side of Thorsten Smith, onto the entry into the third from last corner. You see there Dovtinho once again now treading those track limit lines. They are tricky, and the race director, it's one of those tracks where the race director is pretty cruel in terms of dishing out a slowdown. Fortunately, with the way that this track has been set up with the race director, it's not one of the ones where it seems to overly punish you if you do get a slowdown penalty. So Bruce Law has made his way up into third place above Moritz Pizza. Moritz Pizza not having the most consistent of races, it seems, putting in decent lap times, but not able to find the consistency to stem off Bruce Law in the Audi R8. As we see this battle for first place progress, as we see there under braking, Dovtinho managing to maintain his speed much better into the third from last corner. I think this is where we're going to see plenty of action between these two guys. Definite speed differential with the way that they approach it. It looks as though Thorsten Smith manages to get the drive out of the final two corners, though he seems to make up quite a lot of time there. We may just see Thorsten Smith trying to dictate the pace on this one, trying to unnerve Dovtinho a little bit, put him off and force him into making a mistake. He is definitely a smart enough driver to try and play this game. But we see them now coming into this very tricky double apex right. It actually looks like a long sweeper, but because of the drop and the off camber second section of the swept right, you do actually have to try and balance your throttle and manage your speed really well to get that corner nailed in. These guys definitely up to the task at the moment, though. There's nothing between them in that first sector. We're looking at 35.116 that time around from Thorsten Smith, and in comparatively a 35.093 from Dovtinho in second. So we're talking thousandths of the difference here. It's just 23,000 between the two. So really close driving in the first sector. I think the third and final sector is where the big differences seem to be. There, and we'll see them taking that different approach to this one. I think it might well just be a case of Thorsten Smith trying to slow down Dovtinho, trying to manage him while he's got nowhere to go, and then he'll put the hammer down into this final sector. It looks as though he might have just got his inside edge onto that track limit. Let's see whether or not there is going to be a slowdown from the race director. It doesn't look as though there is, so this is still definitely race on. Of course, I don't have visibility of the time penalties, but you see Dovtinho there making a move up the inside. The two cars come together, and they come together once again, hopefully not doing much of a damage to these two. It didn't look to be too severe of a contact, more just wing mirror rubbing between the two. Dovtinho manages to get himself in front though. definitely super aggressive approach from Duftinho, and it looked to be a pretty brave move up on the inside of turn 2. Brave move, but there was contact. We would of course like to see it done without that, but Thorsten Schmidt is right back on him, right in the gearbox of Duftinho, and he'll look to challenge that position again. We're down to less than 3 minutes remaining in this session. Let's have a little bit of a look down the running order. Looks as though Uniclark is currently challenging its PT, who in turn has got NRP and VMX. NRP having a good race there, managing to secure 6th place if he can hold on to it. It looks as though he's making gains as well on his good friend VMX rider, so we'll see how that one pans out with around about 3 laps to go, I'd say, in this session. But plenty of close action all the way down the running order, really. No massive gaps to be seen. I think the biggest one that we've got is around about 6 seconds, and that is even ever changing between cars. So let's jump back to our leaders, with Duftinho being challenged by Thorsten Schmidt at the moment. 3 tenths between them, as it looks as though they're about to approach. I'm assuming that's the back marker of Lionsfoot in the Ferrari, who moves out of the way under the blue flag conditions, perfectly there to let these 2 guys in the front continue on the racing. It's what we like to see from Lionsfoot. Chose a brilliant place to be overtaken as well, not interfering with any lines whatsoever, and I don't think it cost him too much in terms of his speed either. Do wonder whether or not Lionsfoot is suffering with some damage compared to the lap times that we were seeing him set in qualification, and I think at the practice session. I think a coming together between himself and, this is all speculative, but perhaps Fast As Gamer, maybe even TomTom, has cost him, and he's tried to run the race without any pit stops. Like I say, we'll try and get those details from the drivers once we enter Parc Ferme at the end of this race. But for now, this race is certainly still on between Duftinho and Thorsten Schmidt. So it's Czech Republic versus Germany at the moment in 1st and 2nd place. As we see there, Thorsten Schmidt having a little look around the outside. Is he going to go for the undercut on this one? Take that inside line the next time around. Doesn't manage to get it done. It looks as though it might have cost him a little bit sloppy on exit, catching a little bit too much curb to what he'd want, and Duftinho managing to just get the momentum out of there. Let's see what happens as we enter turn 2. We did of course see that bold move up the inside of Duftinho. We might well see a mention from the stewards in regards to that one. Just because of the contact cause. I don't like to speculate though, but I can imagine a few choice words being said from Thorsten Schmidt underneath his helmet as the cars came together. I think not much damage done though, so these guys can continue to race. Looks as though Thorsten Schmidt's got a warning from the race director for track limits though. As we see that exclamation mark flash up on his right hand side. He's definitely got the speed on Duftinho though, as we see him try and make a move around the outside, potential for an undercut again, but it looks as though Duftinho, wise to it, blocks him off by adjusting his line into the second section of that right-hander, and managing to get a little bit of free air between him once again. Thorsten Schmidt trying to just get into the mirrors of Duftinho by looking to the inside. You cannot really take an inside line onto that corner. I think just a few distraction tactics going on here. He's definitely hungry for this one, but I think as we come around the final couple of corners, 2 corners to go, I think this one is going to be Duftinho unless we see any action into the final corner. It is going to be Duftinho managing to take the first race of tonight. Thorsten Schmidt actually ends up with the first place due to race director time penalties. Bruce Law is now going to finish in 3rd place. Let's have a look whether or not he's got any penalties issued, and whether or not Moritz Pizza is going to be in 4th. So it does look as though that is the running order. NRP managing to get himself into 5th place, so fantastic drive from him there in his change of blue livery in that Mercedes AMG VMX. Fantastic debut from him, manages to finish in 6th. He actually gets knocked down to 7th after time penalties, so Uniclark manages to take 6th place. It's PT after a disastrous spin-off earlier on in the race, manages to climb back up that running order into 8th place with Traven in 9th. Travis ends up finishing just behind him in 10th place with All Right Turkish in 11th. Fast As Gamer finishes the race in 12th with Evan in 13th, TomTom in 13th, and Lionsfoot finishing up the order for our first race of the evening in 15th place. So these guys are going to have a few minutes to calm themselves down. We're going to get ourselves set up for the feature race. But fantastic driving pretty much all across the board, to be honest. It looked as though it was clean, apart from a few little bumps and scrapes. I will try and get the details of what happened at the beginning of the race to see that those positions changed so much. So give us a couple of minutes, folks. Go and put the kettle on, get yourself a cup of tea, and we'll be back with some more action very shortly. They've been working so hard on the setups. So as we see these guys slow it down to the lower end of the race pace, allow the pack to bunch up. We are seeing some gaps still forming, but only 2 corners to go. We're going to want to try and get that pack together. Lionsfoot is going to have the opportunity once he comes around that final bend to put the hammer down whenever he likes. So the rest of the field's going to want to try and stay as close as possible without making any contact. Of course, if he does cross the line before he decides to put his throttle down, then the rest of the race is on, and these guys will have every opportunity to decide when they go. But it looks as though Lionsfoot has put down that right foot, and he's actually managed to take Evan by surprise. I think, was it TomTom? It looks as though TomTom was the one taken by surprise. I do beg your pardon, as we see Evan now right up the gearbox of his good mate Lionsfoot. Let's see whether or not Lionsfoot has been able to make some changes to that Ferrari. He was complaining of oversteer into corners, whether or not it was a braking or perhaps a steering rack or suspension issue. We'll have to wait and see, but it looks as though he's managing to hold it together as we start this race. No massive changes that I can spot from the rest of the running order. All of these boys look to be in the positions that they actually started from, but we do see Lionsfoot there getting a little bit wide. Maybe opening the door to Evan. Not this time around though. Evan's having a little look around the outside. Potential for an undercut here. He has a little look up there. They come mighty close, and TomTom's now able to challenge Evan in 2nd place. Evan having a little look up the right, up the inside. Dangerous place to try it. Whether or not he can get away without any contact. Looks as though perhaps rubbing Lionsfoot, maybe losing out to 2nd place as well. But Evan made that pass cleanly. I'm getting reports through. So Lionsfoot slipping down into 3rd. He may well lose another position to Blitz PT, who's made great gains here. I said he was the one to watch with a good mid-pack starting position after managing to claw back up to 8th place in that sprint. So we've got Evan currently in 1st place, looking to try and get a bit of a gap, as we see TomTom now. He was looking to challenge its PT as he managed to make that stick. Yep, it's PT getting himself into 2nd place, so only Evan to go, and then its PT can try and open the taps and build upon a potential lead. We do see Thorsten Smith, Duftinho and Moritz Pizza into the pits early though. That's going to be interesting as this race progresses, so keep an eye out on that for sure. When its PT decides to come in, we'll be keeping an eye out on Thorsten, Duftinho and Moritz Pizza's current track position. Doesn't look as though they've lost that much time though off the back of it, around about 24-25 seconds. So quick pit stops from those guys as we see its PT managing to make that move quite cleanly on Evan, and Evan will be happy enough just to try and sit in the slipstream of its PT. We did see in the previous qualification sessions and the previous race that its PT had fantastic pace, so if Evan can just try and hang on his tailcoats and get a bit of a gap up to the rest of the field, he'll be licking his chops in terms of his finishing position on this one. So good drives from all of the fellas at the moment. We do see VMX managing to hold his position. He's currently getting challenged by Uniclark, it seems. Let's have a little jump over to this. Have a little bit of a look into the running order as we see that Bentley raining down onto the Mercedes-Benz AMG. Good drive away from that corner though as VMX opens up the gap. You can see Bruce Law coming into the pits. He's also making an early pit stop, lap 3. So this is where we see the difference in strategy. These guys trying to make it all count, hopefully trying to get themselves out into some clean airs. We see a bit of a mistake there from Fast As Gamer. That's going to open up the doors to VMX, but VMX himself being challenged by Uniclark. You see there, I think VMX just caught the rear end of Uniclark. Sorry, of Fast As Gamer. Has Fast As Gamer gone off? He has indeed. I'm not sure what happened there. I think VMX may well have just caught him, perhaps under braking. We'll have to wait and see. Let's have a look up top. It looks as though TomTom's trying to get past Evan at the moment for that battle for second place. We've got a great race battling between Travis and Traven. Travis currently ahead in 4th place, Traven in 5th, and NRP looks to be making a move up the inside of Traven as well. Let's see whether or not he can do a switchback on this one. Doesn't look as though he's managed to get that one, but great competitive racing between these guys. Let's actually jump on board with NRP at the moment and go into the chase cam, get a good view of what's going on with these 5 cars in battle for 3rd place at the moment. Looks as though that's the Ferrari of its PT, I think, jumping into the pits. Of TomTom jumping into the pits, I beg your pardon. White Ferrari in 1st place for its PT. So TomTom decides to make his pit stop, as does VMX. He decides that's time to come in, hopefully not due to damage, with that little bump that we saw coming out of turn 5, I think it was. So currently in the chase view of NRP as he gets really close there to the back end of Traven, holding much more speed out the exit of that corner, and we see the differences in lines taken by these. Looks as though it's a slowdown from NRP actually there. You see him lift off the throttle majorly. Thorsten Schmidt, currently in 10th place, has just set a purple lap with a 136.3. Interesting, in counteract to that, Duftinio setting a purple sector 3 with a 29.4. That's managed to gain around about 3/10 off Thorsten Schmidt's last sector 3 time. So these guys starting to find their pace now and managing to set around about the same pace as our current race leader with its PT, who's managed to make up around about 4.5 seconds to the 2nd place of Evan. So NRP looking to try and get himself back into that position after that slowdown penalty. We do see the battle between Traven and Travis. Traven looking to challenge for 3rd place at the moment. Next up will be Evan, who you can see there in 2nd. None of these guys decided to come in just yet. Looks as though they're going to try and get quite a few more laps down before they put themselves through the pit lane. They don't want to risk coming out into traffic and finding themselves having to challenge for those positions back. VMX is since out the pits. He's back on track, around about 36 seconds off from the leader. So not huge differences here from the guys that have pitted in early. If you consider around about 25 seconds for a pit stop, that's going to get them right up to the running order so long as they can maintain the pace. As we see a move there up the inside from Traven. He's not going to make it stick, I don't think, because he's lost the inside line this next corner round. But these two guys battling really cleanly. It looks as though he's gone for the undercut though. Is he going to make it stick as we run down into the next corner? It's of course on the outside, but that can benefit with this double right-hander. Not this time around though. He's in a good position as we run down into the straight. Looks as though we got a little bit squiffy there though on exit. That's not going to give his momentum any good. We'll jump into the trackside view of these two battles, and the speed differential there between third and fourth place. That Ferrari managing to hold plenty more speed, it seemed, from my view anyway, above the Nissan GT-R, and the Nissan GT-R making it back up in the twisty stuff. It looks as though NRP is about to start challenging for that fourth position. As we see NRP there in the background coming into the pits. So our top four now yet to pit. I think Lion's Foot is yet to pit as well. Alright Turkish also yet to pit, but Uniclark is now coming in. Just getting word from the comms. I think, I do beg your pardon, it seems as though Lion's Foot has pitted. Well, I must have missed that one. I beg your pardon, he's corrected me. He's just managing to do better than last time. Obviously that setup finding its own, and he's definitely in there with a shout, looking to be fending off Alright Turkish next along. Let's have a look at the difference between those two. Alright Turkish having a little look up the inside. May well have got that move done as well. Yep, looks as though Alright Turkish manages to pass him up the inside. Is he going to win in that drag between the Ferrari? I don't think it is up into the left-hander. Ferrari looks as though it's going to take the position back, so good racing between these two. You see that R8 come into battle again. Is he going to look for a bit of an undercut going around the outside? Looks as though he is, but Lion's Foot defending the inside line, blocking it away from happening, and you don't want to go around the outside there from an outside position. You're just never going to get the turn in. So Thorsten Schmidt setting a purple sector one time with a 35.1. Quick sector from him. In comparison, our current race leader, it's PT, set a 35.293. So Thorsten Schmidt looking to make his presence known here as he moves up the running order. Currently sat in 8th place. Dovtinho in tow in 9th, but around about 6 seconds difference between those. It's PT managing to stretch out that lead. Hats off to Evan though, he's managing to maintain a gap between him and Travis at the moment. Traditionally speaking, Travis is usually the quicker driver, but it's PT has got pretty good pace around this circuit. Obviously the practice has paid off, and if he can continue to hold that position when it comes to making his pit stop, hopefully he'll come in with a good shout of at least a top 10 finish, hopefully higher from him as perseverance pays off. Well, let's jump back into this battle a little bit further down the order that I just saw transpiring. I think it was Moritz Pizza and NRP. It is indeed. So NRP has got Moritz in his sights after he came out of the pits. And all of these drivers that I'm currently watching, in fact all of the drivers from 8th place and below, maybe even Fast As Gamer, have made the pit stop. I'm not sure Fast As Gamer has though. Definitely sure that 8th place and below have made the mandatory pit stop, so they're set up for the end of this race. Managing to hold off from NRP at the moment. Well, it'll be interesting to see what NRP's last lap time looked like, but his splits look really good. In fact, he's topping over Moritz in terms of the splits. By around about 3 or 4 tenths, so it might be half a second gained by NRP by the time that we close up on this lap. Now, of course, got the Silver Arrow coloured Bruce Law right behind NRP as well. So this is going to be a fantastic battle as it pushes on. Looks as though we've got Traven now into the pits as we see somebody just getting very close there on pit exit. Was that Uniclark? I don't think it was actually. Uniclark's in the Bentley. It looks as though there is contact there, and it's Bruce Law that's been taken out. It looks as though it was TomTom actually in that green and black Lamborghini. Oh no, I beg your pardon, TomTom, it wasn't. It was Evan. And so Evan there getting caught up with Bruce Law on the exit of the pit lane. Little bit of contact. Hopefully no damage done to Bruce Law. He's managed to get himself back on track as we see it looks like back markers being overtaken there. As the race progresses, we've got XPT solidifying his first place position at the moment. He has got a over 25-second lead to the 6th place of Duftinho. Hasn't got that magic 25-second lead to Thorsten Smith though. Thorsten Smith currently in 4th place, 22 seconds behind the race leader, as we see Travis, our Irish driver, deciding to make his pit stop. Be interested to see where he comes out. In fact, I'm going to have a little look at him, see whether or not he's exiting or entering the pits. It looks as though he might be exiting. He's about to come across a whole load of traffic, I think. A little bit of a warning from him on pit lane exit. Looks as though he's managed to get out cleanly, just slotting himself nicely. So good work from his pit crew there on the pit release. And it's not a bad position either. 6th place from Travis at the stand. That's certainly going to help his finishing position. We do of course have a few drivers. I think actually it's just 2 drivers yet to pit in that top 6 between Lion's Foot and All Right Turkish. So following around Lion's Foot now. His changes definitely have helped in that Ferrari, managing to keep it together, looking much smoother. Thorsten Smith has set a new purple lap last time around with a 1:35.86. Duftinho though is faster in the 2nd and 3rd sectors last time around. So these boys, as we see XPT now into the pits, we see this lead decreasing. It is going to be as quick of a pit stop as possible. It looks as though it is just a little bit of damage repair, but Thorsten Smith is now coming out of those final 2 corners. Has jumped back to XPT, he's now exiting the pit lane, so it's going to be very close between these 2 guys. Looks as though Thorsten Smith, just because of the speed that he's carrying, is going to take 1st place, but XPT is going to find himself in a pretty good position to challenge for that. Is he going to get out in front of Duftinho? I don't think he is, so he's going to slot into 3rd. And maybe he has. Oh, as we see the 2 come together, it looks as though Duftinho catching XPT. XPT straight out of the pits, hopefully not too much damage there, but Duftinho and XPT coming together. Looks as though Duftinho slowing down after making that contact, so he feels like it was his to be made. He ends up giving the position back. It looks as though we've just seen the GTR, I think it is, of Travis going mighty wide into the gravel. That's going to be tricky to get out into. But Duftinho now slots himself into 5th place. XPT managing to make his way back into 2nd, making it past the rest of the pack with relative ease. He has got Lion's Foot up his inside, but judging off the pace of these, I'm sure he'll make that move pretty quick. They are of course battling for position. Duftinho gave the place up, I think it was due to the contact, but none of the rest of the guys need to give that position up. So a slight maybe lack of concentration there, causing that coming together between Duftinho and XPT. Looks as though XPT hasn't lost too much time due to damage. Fingers crossed that his car's still in pretty good shape. See him there losing the rear end a little bit. I do worry whether or not there is damage sustained on that white Ferrari, but we'll wait and see. Thorsten Smith though will be beaming with smiles as he manages to make up around about 8 seconds of a gap between him and XPT at the moment. So All Right Turkish and Lion's Foot yet to pit, as we see Moritz Pizza managing to make up positions, as does Duftinho onto All Right Turkish, and we've got a big crash there, it seems, between NRP, I think it was, the blue car of NRP, and it might have been Evan looking at the driver jumping down there. Maybe it was, I'm not sure, Uniclark potentially getting caught up in that as well. But I just saw it in the background, that distinguishable blue AMG car from NRP just coming together with another one. We'll have to have a look at that on the replays. These guys' concentration maybe just starting to slip a little bit as this track hots up. Lap 12 of 27 here in tonight's feature race. And it looks as though, if my info feed's correct, which it quite often isn't, it looks as though Travis has actually got himself a drive-through penalty due to track limits. That's going to be interesting. Hopefully that's miscommunication on mine, but we'll have to wait and see whether or not that is indeed factual. Have a look to see whether or not Travis ends up having to come into the pits, following Bruce Law around at the moment now, as Travis may well come into the pits this time. No, it doesn't look as though he's going to make his pit stop for his drive-through penalty. I have had confirmation from the drivers that track limit drive-through penalty is in fact factual, so Travis is going to have to lose another 20 odd seconds with a drive-through penalty, as we see All Right Turkish now deciding to make his pit stop. So Travis currently being challenged by Bruce Law in that number 16 AMG. Not looking to make any moves that might allow Duftinho past with any sort of ease. NRP also into the pits. I can only assume that that is due to the incident that happened earlier on. Managing to get past there, and Travis, I think, but it is a bit of a drag up to the right-hander. Has he made that move stick? It looks as though he has. So next up for Duftinho is going to be Travis. Travis, of course, with that drive-through penalty. So he won't be looking to give up any positions with ease. He'll probably wait and see out that drive-through a little bit later on when he's not in any such battles. So let's have a look with our leader and the difference. So second place, not even in sight at the moment for Thorsten Smith. It's PT, 8 or 9 seconds behind the current race leader. So then Moritz Pizza around about 4 seconds behind him. Duftinho currently battling with Bruce Law though. This is the closest battle I think that we've got, as we see Travis deciding to do his drive-through. So I was wrong in my estimation, as we see Lionsfoot now also making his pit stop. Lionsfoot making a mandatory pit stop, Travis with a drive-through. So we're just past the halfway mark for tonight's feature race in these GT3s. And it looks as though it's currently Thorsten's to lose, able to gain a huge advantage after a coming together between its PT and Duftinho. That did look as though it was sorted out on track, with Duftinho allowing that position through, so great to see that from him. Mistakes do get made, and that's how we like to try and counteract those mistakes. But Thorsten Smith coming off cleanly with it. To its PT, he's gained around about 4 seconds ahead of the third place of Moritz. He's continuing to maintain that gap, and then it's the battle that we're currently watching for fourth place between Bruce Law and Duftinho. Next up down the running, we've got in sixth place with TomTom, who's actually having a really good showing. He's set a green lap last time around, so he's managing to find his own pace in a bit of clear air. So good driving from TomTom. Next down the line is Traven. You can see that Travis, after his drive-through, has actually ended up in 11th place behind VMX, which to be having it a little bit trickier this time around. He hasn't really found the pace in that bright yellow AMG. Let's see whether or not it could well be a little bit of damage after we've seen a few coming togethers. But we'll have to wait and see how he manages to finish this race. He's certainly proven that he's got the pace to get up there. He's currently around about 3 seconds behind our Irish driver Evan in 9th place. So Evan still managing to maintain that top 10 finish that I predicted, and I'm sure that he'll be really happy with that if he can hold on to it for this remaining 12 laps. So Thorsten Schmidt managing to make gains against second place. Thorsten Schmidt actually setting a purple sector 1 this current lap with a 35 seconds, pretty much dead. Just to put that into perspective, he's around about 3/10 quicker than anybody else in the field that last time around. And looks as though he's going to try and set another, yet again, purple lap in this feature race. Let me know your comments, let me know where you're watching from. I'd love to know where in the world you're currently viewing this fantastic bit of GT3 action here at Rubbins Racing. Duftinho still struggling to get past Bruce Law at the moment. We see Bruce Law back end stepping out a little bit, and that has allowed Duftinho to close the gap. We'll jump into the cockpit. Let's get a bit of a cockpit view of this drive down into this. I will keep you updated with any changes that I manage to spot on my lap boards, but I just want to try and catch some in-car action as we see Duftinho trying to make the move on Bruce Law. Looks as though we've got a back marker as well ahead of them. So this is going to make it quite interesting. Duftinho slipping over to the inside, or what will be the inside the next time around. He does a bit of a switchback, and we see him there managing to keep much tighter to the apex, but just struggling to get round that big boisterous Mercedes-Benz AMG of Bruce Law. So we'll jump back into our trackside cam and try and make sure we don't miss any of this action between these two drivers. Good racing from them at the moment though. You can see the differences in gains between the two cars. And that AMG power plant just managing to pull away when it comes to the straight stuff. It's when it comes into braking and through the corners that Lamborghini just seems to have the upper edge. As we see the gap closing right up again, it looks as though he's going to try and... I thought he was going to try and make that move up the inside. He's definitely having a look though, Duftinho. Starting to get impatient, as you can see his opportunity to try and challenge the leader slipping away. So round about 18.5 seconds behind Thorsten Schmidt, who's currently sat in first. And Duftinho just unable to get around Bruce Law as he gets a little bit sloppy on exit. Ends up catching the kidney litter, and I think a little brush with the wall. He was lucky there that that didn't transpire into anything worse, but now losing out on the gains that he'd made on Bruce Law and having to start again. So let's have a little bit of a look down the order. It looks as though that back marker was TomTom, who's currently being challenged by Uniclark in that Bentley Continental. So he's going to have to work hard. We know that Uniclark, from all of the pace of last season's racing, Uniclark certainly has pace in that Bentley. A lot of drivers struggle to get that big hook round, but when it comes out to the straights and they open that big supercharged blower, gaps just seem to vanish. Huge speed differential, even against a Ferrari. Managing to make it done at the moment. TomTom holding his own against him. Let's jump back to that battle for fourth place between Bruce Law and Duftinho. So that gap being maintained, it actually looked a little bit bigger in the splits, but it's around about 0.9 of a second it seems once he settles out into the corners. So looking at the lap times between Thorsten Schmidt and HPT, Thorsten Schmidt continually getting a little bit quicker. Bruce Law's actually competitive in terms of his lap times around with Thorsten Schmidt. I do suspect though Thorsten Schmidt driving around about 90% just to make sure that he brings this one home. Doesn't want to make any mistakes and cost himself that huge gap that he's got presently of around about 12 seconds. I know that Thorsten's father actually watches all of his races, so I'm sure that he'll be cheering him on at home from the safety of lockdown. Although it's been lifted, I do hope that you're all staying safe over there in Germany. Plenty of German people watching this stream, I know for sure. I can see plenty of them making comments on the stream as we go out live. So let's see whether or not it's going to be party time for Thorsten's family. I think it may well be with a 12-second lead. It's going to take a couple of spins, I think, for him to lose out on any position between its PT or some considerable damage, and that is simply something we don't see from our guy from Berlin. So it looks as though Evans making another pit stop. We'll just have a quick jump onto him. It looks as though he's actually coming out of the pits. I do suspect that that's due to damage, or perhaps it was a fuel issue, but I can't see much damage on the front of that car. Yeah, I'm getting calls of damage from the front left, so unfortunate for him. He was in a great position at the start of this race. I'm pretty sure he still made a name for himself with how he's managed to hold it up, but sponsored by that Irish TV livery, more fitting from our man from Ireland. Loves to race, he'll race absolutely anything with a motor. But looking to make improvements on his GT3 career this season around, and I think if the start of this race is anything to go by, he's in for a good shout, that's for sure. And looking down the rest of the order, we've still got a battle with Uniclark and TomTom, but Uniclark now has that advantage. He's managed to get past TomTom. TomTom now, though, trying to get right up against the rear side of that Bentley to try and take that position back. So these guys are around about 2 seconds away from the 6th place of Traven. So Duftinho still unable to get past Bruce Law for that battle for 4th place. It's definitely closer though, it's less than half a second now. We'll actually jump over to that one and see whether or not there's any moves to be made. I think you can actually see that, yep, that's the red and black Audi R8 of Moritz Pizza as well, ahead in 3rd place. So these guys have managed to keep such a pace that they've managed to battle and catch up to 3rd. So a lot on offer for these drivers, and I know that Jack, otherwise known as Bruce Law, will be fighting his hardest to try and get that podium spot. Definitely a better driver than his finishes last season suggested. I mean, you can see it whenever we follow him on the on-track action, but if you look at his standings, I think a few different incidents and perhaps a few tracks that really didn't go his way last season saw him in a position that we wouldn't expect. As we see him there getting a little bit deep into the corner, he ends up losing the rear end. Unfortunately, a bit of commentator's curse. Apologies for that, Jack, but manages to get on the track again, relatively unscathed. He has lost a couple of seconds though, so that's opened up 4th place to Duftinho. He's now going to be challenged by challenging Moritz Pizza in around about 1 second's time. Let's have a look at that gap between these two drivers. So yeah, Duftinho at the moment trying to get hot onto the back of that Audi R8. So the two Audi power plants in different bodies with different setups, trying to catch up on each other for the last podium spot of this evening's race. You can see here, quickest sector 1. He's beaten his previous sector 1 by just 1/1000th of a second from Thorsten Smith, setting a sector 1 this time around of 35.018. Good racing from him. Looks as though Fast As Gamer has unfortunately had a power cut. Just getting reports of that on the Discord channel, so unfortunate for him. Really hasn't had a good time of things today. We saw his connection flapping a little bit. Luckily he managed to finish that last race around, but we saw while we were in the Parc Fermé lobby and this race was being set up, we saw him disconnecting. It looks as though his power supply is now cut out on him, so a blackout or brownout from Matthew, aka Fast AF Gamer. Unfortunate for him, so it's going to be a DNF. I do believe we'll have to check his finishing position. He may well get a couple of points just for finishing 15th if he managed to complete above 75% of the race distance. We're of course on lap 21 of 27, so 6 full laps to go of this race, and it looks as though Moritz and Duftinho currently going neck and neck here. Moritz holding on to the inside in that Audi R8 with Duftinho around the outside looking to try and hold up onto the drag for the next left-hander. Well, in between these two guys, and it looks as though Moritz is actually going defensive up the inside. It's a brave line. They do risk coming together. I think Dovtinho potentially just lifts out of it because of the line. Didn't want to come together and end up losing any time on that one, but he lives to battle another day, and Bruce Law's managed to get himself back up in that fight. That's what we like to see after he lost it earlier, managing to get some consistency back into his pace and catch up with these guys, so he may well be able to challenge for third place as we enter the final 5 laps. So fantastic battle here for third place transpiring between these 3 drivers, as we see Dovtinho making that move up the inside. Is he going to make it stick? He is of course going to be on the outside for the next left-hander. Ends up going a little bit deep. He rides those track limits. He may well have a slowdown for that. He may well just take the penalty, because a slowdown is just going to allow Bruce Law to pass him as well. He has made the move stick onto Moritz Pizza. It's whether or not he's going to be able to maintain it after a challenge from a cutback from him, as we see Moritz Pizza then moving over to the outside to take that left-hander. Bruce Law, meanwhile, making gains over them. If you look at the last lap times around, Dovtinho with a 1:39.9, Moritz Pizza with a 1:38.3, but Bruce Law managing to make up that difference in time with a 1:37.2. So the hammer is down now for Bruce Law inside that silver Mercedes AMG. We'll be looking to try and tie together some of those consistent lap times that we saw him set in qualification in the last race around, to try and get the difference between him and third place even shorter. As though NRP, if I just run down the running order, is about to be challenging Lions for NRP, of course having a bit of a disaster, having to make 2 pit stops. I'm assuming it was for damage sustained with a crash into turn 2. Didn't catch that action too much on the stream. It was in the background of our broadcast, so we will maybe have a little bit of a look back on that once we finish tonight and try and see what happened to him. But damage sustained, and he actually slipped all the way down the running order. He's managed to get himself into 11th place now, making that move onto Lion's Foot. So good driving from him. It does look as though the 10th spot, as we see there, Bruce Law making a move on the outside of Moritz Pizza, making it stick. It looks as though it was a slowdown from Moritz Pizza that allowed that position to go through. So Bruce Law now around about 1.5 seconds behind Dovtinho. So a lot to do to try and get that third place finish, but there are of course 4 full laps remaining on this one, so plenty of time to do it. Alright, Turkish has found himself in a bit of a bad one this race around. I think perhaps getting caught up in scuffles. It's seen him drop down the running order. Currently sat in 14th place, aided by the fact that Fast As Gamer unfortunately getting disconnected, so that will be 1 additional point for Alright Turkish in the running order. Let's jump into the battle for third place. We can see there the difference now between Bruce Law and Dovtinho appears to be opening up. Dovtinho, although it doesn't suggest it in that last lap around, it looks as though he's really putting the hammer down in his in lap 24. He's making up a huge gap there between him and Bruce Law in 4th place. You can just see their split times rising and rising, so Dovtinho managing to find a little bit of consistency inside his pace. It does look to be similar on the sector times to Bruce Law, so not sure where that comes in. We see there the guys passing a back marker. That is Alright Turkish, it is indeed. So the back marker of Alright Turkish being passed quite cleanly by 3rd, 4th and 5th place. looks as though VMX is about to be challenged by Travis. We'll jump to that battle because it looks as though this one is starting to peter out as Duftino pulls ahead. Gap looks to be a bit bigger than the split time suggests, but we'll see how it comes into the final sector of the track when it starts to bunch up quite a bit with those tricky sections of corners. But I don't think the Nissan GT3 is going to be able to compete with the Mercedes-Benz AMG onto the straight, so we'll expect to see that gap open right up into the chicane. As it does indeed, so no disappointment there, exactly what we expected. So Duftino has now managed to gain 3.1 seconds ahead of Bruce Law in just a couple of laps, so that pace from Duftino has been exemplary once he's managed to get past. Obviously looking to do everything he can to hold on to that third spot. We are currently following him around the track. Looks as though he's got a back marker ahead of him. Or is that actually It's PT? I think that might be the white Ferrari of It's PT that we just managed to see. Let me jump into the chase cam and try and get a better look at that. It is indeed, so It's PT currently in sight. If Duftino can continue to string together a couple of lap times like the last one he did, and if It's PT starts to lose out on any of his pace, he is going to be challenged by Duftino into the final lap. So pressure's on now for these guys in the top three, pretty much for second place, as we see there Thorsten Schmidt 19 seconds ahead of these two guys. But It's PT's going to have to work hard at consistency to try and make sure he stays off the attack from Duftino that we've seen over the last couple of laps. Great driving from our young man from the Czech Republic. He really has. After making a bit of a large error, it saw him slip down the pack when he was in a position to pounce. He's managed to get himself back through really cleanly, and his pace and consistency really throughout today's event has been second only to Thorsten Schmidt, really. You have to argue he was taking that top spot in this feature, although he managed to take the sprint race due to race director penalties. He certainly has proven himself in terms of consistency, that's for sure. So we're just closing out onto the penultimate lap of this evening's feature race. Stellar drive from Thorsten Schmidt with It's PT has actually done really well. He managed to make big gains from a positive starting position of the mid-pack into the reverse grid of this feature race. Managed to make it count despite being relatively unchallenged through a lot of it. He managed to get through the back markers with relative ease. He managed to secure that first position at the start of the race quite well, and made a brilliant pit stop to land him just outside of the top three. So notable drive as well from Bruce Law, top 5 in both races. That's great going from him if he can finish this race. We are of course now onto the final lap with Thorsten Schmidt. We'll jump onto the trackside camera of him. We'll follow him around this track. We'll keep a close eye on the split between It's PT and Duftino that's currently sat around about 1.5 seconds. It looks as though It's PT down around about 1 second per lap, so it's definitely all to play for with this one, as we see Thorsten Schmidt move past the back marker of All Right Turkish for the third time. Sorry, second time, I beg your pardon, I think I've sold All Right Turkish a little bit short there. Second time around though, around from him. And Thorsten Schmidt pretty much in clear air for the remainder of this track. He's not going to catch up to the next back marker as he enters the final sector of what has been a fantastic feature race. Keep an eye out on the difference between second and third place. At the moment it's getting shorter and shorter from what I can see. Once we cross the line we will jump right back over to that battle. But our second winner of the evening is going to be the same as the first winner of the evening. Back-to-back wins there for Thorsten Schmidt. Fantastic drive from him. Duftino is really going to have to make something count now if he's going to get that second place, but I can't see it happening with only 2 corners to go. It's PT has had a fantastic drive to manage to hold off the guy from the Czech Republic. As we come across the line, let's see if there's any track penalties to be issued. There isn't, so it's a second place finish for It's PT. Third place goes to Duftino, who actually loses the third place to Bruce Law due to race director time penalties. So does Moritz Pizza as well. So Duftino finding himself in 5th place, must have racked up some considerable time penalties there. I think we'll be looking around about the 6 or 10 second mark, I can imagine. In 6th place we have Traven, so good drive from him actually as well. Worth noting, Uniclark finishes in 7th with TomTom in 8th. BMX Rider, he's about to come across the final 2 corners ahead of Travis. Travis, of course, with that drive-through penalty midway through the race, around about lap 10, that's cost him dearly. But VMX finishes ahead of him in 9th place, so 2 great finishes from our debutant Aussie driver, VMX Rider. Travis finishes in 10th, so good drive from him considering he had an additional trip through the pit lane. NRP finishes in 11th after some considerable damage, with Lionsfoot in 12th, Evan in 13th, and Alright Turkish finishing in 14th. We did, of course, have Fast As Gamer unfortunately disconnected in that race. We will check on which lap he was disconnected, and he may well still receive some points for that one. So that has been our opener for the GT3 Championship. We thank you very much for joining us here tonight. Of course, we will be back on air again on Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Join us here on the Rubbins Racing YouTube channel for the touring car event, live at 8 with me, Murphy. Until then, be sure to check out any of our pre-recorded races that we have to see what has happened so far in Season 3 here at Rubbins Racing in the 2020 lineup. Until then, I will see you on Tuesday. Thank you very much, and once again, thank you to all of our drivers and all of our viewers. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time.